Hello, welcome back to We the People Politics. Today, we will be making an election prediction map for the 2024 presidential election between President Joe Biden and former UN Ambassador and South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. As of this video, Haley is the only candidate other than former President Trump still running in the Republican primary. And after losing to none of these options in Nevada, it is clear that Trump will be the nominee. However, for the sake of the scenario, we will assume that Trump has been barred from the ballot. In the latest national polls, Haley and Biden go back and forth, but the trend seems to be that Haley leads Biden 1-1, and Biden leads with third party candidates included. This leads me to believe that this race will be closer than some analysts expect. Unlike my last video, this prediction will not be based solely upon polls, as there are not many statewide polls comparing Biden and Haley. A lot of this video will be subject to my own personal interpretations. With all of that said, let's get predicting. Like the last video, we will start with the safe states, which are determined by 12 percentage points or more. President Biden will carry Hawaii, Washington, Oregon, California, Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Delaware, Connecticut, Vermont, and Maine's 1st Congressional District. Ambassador Haley will carry Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large and its 1st and 3rd districts, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, South Carolina, and Maine's 2nd Congressional District. These states out of the way, we can move on to the closer states, starting from the west and ending in the east. Starting in the state of Alaska, there are no polls comparing Biden and Haley. However, Alaska has been likely Republican for 3 straight elections, and I do not see it changing this time around. A likely state is any state between 5 and 12 percentage points in favor of the victor. In Nevada, Haley leads Biden by a 7.5-point margin in a November poll. However, I doubt her ability to win a state that Republicans have not won since 2008 by that large of a margin. So, we will say that the silver state is lean Haley. A lean state is any state decided between 2 and 5 percentage points. Moving over to Arizona, Haley leads in the polls without third parties, while Biden leads in a November poll with third parties, all by likely margins. Even though the polls slightly favor Biden due to his poll including third party candidates, I would wager that the border crisis would give Haley a slight lead over Biden in the state, making it tilt for Haley. A tilt state is any state determined between 2 and 0 percentage points. There are no polls for the state of Colorado, but I think it is safe to say that it would be likely for Biden, as while it has been trending blue, Haley would likely be able to do well there due to the border crisis. The same goes for New Mexico, which is the only state with a Hispanic majority. This fact does not help Haley as she does not do well with Hispanic voters, barely preventing this state from being lean for Biden. It will be likely Biden. Next, we will move to Texas, where it is actually Biden who is leading in the polls by a very small margin, likely due to Haley not performing as well with rural and Hispanic voters as Trump. However, as the border crisis continues, I see Haley taking the Lone Star State by a tilt margin. There are no polls for Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, and is looking to be really close come November. Trump won it in 2016 by a 2% margin. However, Biden won it by a 6.5% margin in 2020. I think that Haley will be able to do better among urban and suburban voters than Trump would. However, I believe that Biden would edge out Haley by a tilt margin. In Iowa, there are no polls for Haley. However, I do believe that she would do slightly worse than Trump here due to the large amount of blue-collar voters. I see the Midwest in general being a lot harder for Haley to win, as it used to be a solid blue wall for Democrats until Trump won most of them in 2016. In Iowa, one of the redder Midwest states, I believe that Haley would win by just under 5 points, making it lean for Haley. Same story in Minnesota, where Haley is not present in any polls, but will likely do worse than Trump. And as it is the second bluest state in the region, Biden will win it by a likely margin. Wisconsin is a little crazy here. Haley leads by 15 and 16 points in a recent January poll. However, Biden leads by 9 points in a poll with a large sample size from the same time. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. earned 16% of the vote in this poll, likely taking a lot of would-be Trump voters from Haley. Taking Kennedy into account, I think that Wisconsin will be lean for Biden. In Michigan, multiple polls show Haley leading Biden by at least 10% one-on-one. However, Biden leads by 12% in a November poll that includes Kennedy at 18 points. This is too big of a lead to ignore, and I think that with Kennedy on the ballot, Biden will actually win by slightly over 5 points, making it likely for Biden. In the state of Indiana, a state that Obama won back in 2008, I see Kennedy hurting Haley by enough to where she only wins Indiana by a 10% margin, maybe less, making the usually safe Republican state likely for Haley. Down in Ohio, you see Biden leading by a slim margin in this October poll that does not include third parties, meaning that his lead would likely expand if Kennedy were on the ballot, which is why I believe that Biden will flip the Republican state by a tilt margin. Moving down to Florida, Biden leads Haley by 5 points in the Sunshine State in this November poll. However, I do not think Biden will be able to flip it given Governor Ron DeSantis' 20-point victory in 2022. Given all of that, Florida will be tilt for Haley. Moving up to Georgia, Biden leads by 6 to 8 points, including Kennedy. Haley leads by 6 and under, excluding Kennedy. I believe that due to Georgia neighboring South Carolina, Haley would be able to barely edge out Biden by a tilt margin. In South Carolina's northern counterpart, Haley leads by 3 points even when you include Kennedy on the ballot. I think that Haley's popularity in this region would push her over 5%, making North Carolina likely for Haley. Moving up to the state of Virginia, it used to be a swing state until Donald Trump lost it by 10 points to Joe Biden in 2020. However, Haley appears to be making it much more competitive again as she leads by 5% in a recent poll excluding Kennedy. This is likely due to voters in the D.C. area being less hostile to her than Trump. And after Governor Glenn Youngkin managed to flip the governorship, I have decided that Virginia will be tilt Haley. Up in Pennsylvania, Haley leads in multiple polls. However, Scranton Joe leads by 10 points in a poll including Kennedy, and Haley would struggle with blue class voters, so I think Pennsylvania would likely be lean Biden. In New Jersey, it used to be open to supporting Republicans and elected Chris Christie as governor twice. If Haley were to get his endorsement, she might be able to make a dent in New Jersey, making it only likely Biden. In New Hampshire, a state that Trump lost by only 0.4% in 2016, Haley leads by 3 points in a January poll and 6 points in a November poll, while Biden leads by 16 points from a poll all the way back in September. Haley performed very well here in the state's Republican primary, getting 43% of the vote against former President Trump, and the state has been very accepting of more moderate Republicans. If she campaigns with Governor Chris Sununu, who has already endorsed her, I could see New Hampshire actually going for tilt Haley. Look at that. Looks like we have a tie here. I guess it all comes down to Maine at large, which does not have any polls for Haley versus Biden. However, in the past couple elections, it has been about 2 points to the left of New Hampshire. So for this scenario, we will say that it is barely, just barely, tilt Biden, resulting in a second term for the incumbent president. Ambassador Haley with 268 electoral votes, President Biden with 270. Despite what many analysts currently say, I do not foresee Haley winning in a landslide victory unless Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fails to gain ballot access in any of the swing states. I do believe that the entire election depends on Kennedy's actions. But what do you think? You can comment down below your thoughts on my prediction. If you enjoyed this video, you can click that little button down there that says subscribe. A couple of people have clicked it now. I think they're pretty awesome. With all of that said, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.